My husband was dead. He was only 37, and I, at 33, was left a widow with 4 children to support. Talk of poison abounded, with myself and Robert, Earl of Leicester, as chief suspects. People even spread lies of us having illegitimate children hidden away. Post-mortem was ordered by the Lord Deputy, Sir Henry Sidney, and natural causes were found to be the cause of death. His body was returned home to be buried at Carmarthen, the town where Walter had been born, with his brother George acting as chief mourner. My beloved boy Robert was now Earl of Essex at the tender age of 11, and he was removed from my care to live with Lord Burghley according to his father's wishes. I and my other children had to leave our home at Chartley and journey to my family's home of Gray's Court. From there I had creditors chasing me for the debts incurred by Walter, but I was no meek widow. I took up my pen and I wrote to anyone with power to assist me. I always made sure to attend my kinswoman, the Queen, at court and enjoy myself for a brief period. The council eventually granted me a claim to my late husband's lands, but my small victory was tinged with sadness with the removal of my other children to Walter's cousin, Henry Hastings, for their upbringing. Whilst travelling with my daughters to their new home, we broke our journey at Coles Hill, not 10 miles from Kenilworth. The Earl of Leicester was in residence and welcomed us to hunt there. Now a widow, and Robert a widower, we were free to let our feelings be known, and we talked of marriage. We were not unaware of the feelings against us, so we did not marry straight away. It was not until September 1578, 2 years later, that we married quietly at Wanstead Hall in Essex. Whilst our marriage was celebrated by both our families, it was kept secret from the Queen. My new husband feared Elizabeth's reaction. Although she would not marry him herself, he was expected to devote his life to her. We had the hard task of hiding our new happiness from the court straight after the wedding, as the Queen decided to end her summer progress that year by staying at Wanstead. The New Year celebrations at court, we exchanged gifts with Her Majesty, would be my last. The French ambassador had discovered our secret a few months later, and to aid his colleague, the envoy of the Duke of Anjou, who had hoped to marry the Queen, he passed on this information. The envoy, Simier, seeing Robert as a threat to his master, had told the Queen our secret. She was incandescent with rage. We had betrayed her utterly. Her favourite had married her kinswoman without consent. We were banished from court, and I would never be forgiven. She even boxed my ears. At first, I travelled through London, flaunting my new title and being carried by milk-white horses, usually the preserve of the Queen. But in order that her wrath did not fall upon Robert, I moved quietly to the country. I spent my time with my Knollys relatives, although for the birth of our first child, I moved to Leicester House in London. There I gave Robert the legitimate heir he had craved, Robert Lord Denbigh. Robert had been forgiven by the Queen and had returned to court, so I wanted to be near him with our precious baby boy. We spent time in all our properties, moving around the country, visiting family members, including my older children. But it was at Wanstead in July 1584 that our noble imp, Lord Denbigh, was called to God. He was just 3 years old. I was with him as he breathed his last, but my husband was at court in Nonsuch Palace. He broke all protocol, leaving without permission to be by my side in our grief. He was a broken man. Even the Queen sent a message of condolence. To Robert, though, not to me. I was now 41, judged too old to bear more children, so we put our energies into my children by Essex. My eldest son, the Earl of Essex, was now a man grown, and by the good grace of my husband was welcomed at court, where the Queen liked his youth and was very taken with him. In 1585, my husband was called upon by the Queen to lead an English expedition to the Netherlands to assist them against Spain. Whilst there, he was appointed Governor-General by the thankful people, a title that enraged Elizabeth. She was further angered that I had decided to join him, with a great train of retainers, travelling like a queen in state. She expressly forbade me to leave England, and it took several months and the help of our friends at court to abate her anger. Things went well on campaign, my son excelling and fighting with bravery. Soon, however, they were recalled to England as there was another Catholic plot involving the Queen of Scots. This plot involved an Anthony Babington and several Catholic noblemen, and incriminating letters were soon discovered by Lord Walsingham, Elizabeth's spymaster. Mary was held to account and tried in Fotheringhay Castle for treason. She was found guilty, sentenced to death, but Elizabeth refused to sign her death warrant, despairing to kill an anointed queen. She knew that if killing a queen was legal, she could be the next target. It was decided that the only person capable of persuading Elizabeth to sign was my husband, so he was summoned home. She prevaricated, but eventually signed, and Mary was executed, badly by all accounts, and Elizabeth mourned. Later that year, Robert was sent back to the Netherlands. Things had escalated with Spain, and he was needed to lead again. He had been troubled by illness, so before setting out, he travelled to our favourite spa town of Buxton. This town, however, my son would stay home, as the Queen had developed a fondness for him. He was her new favourite, putting aside Walter Raleigh. Things did not go as well in Holland, and as Robert had lately been suffering from gout and anxiety, he resigned his post to return home, but I was determined to restore him to health. When I saw him again, I was shocked. He was so ill with many different complaints. We needed to restore him, yet state matters once again intervened. Philip of Spain had amassed a great armada to conquer England and reinstate Catholicism. Robert was needed at the side of the Queen, helping with the defence of the realm. He created a large military encampment at Tilbury and wrote most frequently to the Queen with advice and tactics. In August, I was able to visit Robert in Tilbury, and I witnessed the Queen make her stirring speech to the ending troops, with tears in my eyes, for there, standing either side of Her Majesty, were my husband and my son. We had learnt of the defeat of the Armada, and the country rejoiced. We returned to London for the celebrations. Jousts and feasts were held for all. My husband, though, was clearly unwell, and so he bade farewell to the Queen, and we left to spend the autumn quietly. We intended to travel to Buxton to take the waters, and we travelled slowly north. We made it as far as Cornbury Park, where my beloved husband took to his bed, never to rise again. The fevers that had so beset him now proved too much. I was by his side when he breathed his last. The Queen, when she heard, shut herself away for days, curtailing the lavish celebrations in London, and once again would not offer me any words of condolence. On the 10th of October, 1588, we laid my beloved husband to rest in Warwick, his tomb close to that of our beloved son. And I, now 45, was again a widow.